Oh yeah, and we don't have intro music either. So, what's up, everyone? I am Daniel Hofflich, and joined with me in the party chat today is Robert Pennington. That is on my, I don't know, I guess he's in the top right corner of your screen. And then Steven Russell in the bottom left corner of your screen.
Hello,
Today,
hello.
yes, today we have such
Today.
a ginormous discussion here. It is more of a dilemma for me personally, as I cannot decide on what is the best PlayStation 4 exclusive. We're going to save you the time of going through a big ranking system, and we're just going to go right down to it, man. This is God of War versus The Last of Us Part 2.
Mm.
There was several other games in there that definitely yeah, I mean, you had Spider-Man, you had Horizon, you have Final Fantasy VII Remake. There's a lot of games, but in the end it comes down to these two, and I honestly cannot decide what is better, what is the better game. So today we're going to be taking a look at story, graphics, gameplay, and sound. These these are what I consider four big pillars of what makes a game great, and that's how I review my games. I go by those four pillars, and those pillars are made up of several other aspects. So if you're asking what about art direction and stuff like that, we're just going to throw that under graphics, under that category, and things like that. Okay. So yeah, you guys ready to get into this one?
Let's do it.
I'm all set. Let's do it. Yeah.
Uh,
I get
all
some
right.
I get some
Yeah, so
things
this is
to
actually
say.
this is interesting because if you want to go back and watch our full in-depth discussion of Last of Us, you sure can. That's out right here on the YouTube channel for Game Night slash, or it says youtube.com/Game Night Hype. But you can check that out. It's a full review and discussion. We get really deep into it. I think it was like a 2-hour podcast. So that one's a good
I
one.
actually think that was our deepest discussion of anything ever.
Yeah, it was like I think it was one of my favorites, just because we really like that. It's funny because that one and the Final Fantasy VII remake demo discussion with Robert, was those are two of my favorite podcasts that we've done on the
Eh,
channel.
I need to watch the Last of Us one that you guys did. I need to watch it.
Yeah, because this is what makes this interesting is Robert is just coming off the tails of beating Last of Us Part 2. So, Robert, are you riding
Fresh.
that? Are you
Right.
riding the high of like how amazing the game was, or were you more along with like what Peter thought on our discussion video, where he was like, "It's okay."
It's definitely it's not okay. Okay. It's not
Yeah,
far, far from okay.
it's
It
far better.
Yeah, I mean, I knew, especially when especially when you get like at the halfway point, what the game was trying to do, and I was defensive, which is I'm sure both of you guys were. I hated this chick Abby. I couldn't wait to get like our hands on her,
I
and I
still
was like,
hate her.
okay, you're
So
gonna
there's
make me
that.
play as this. I was like, you're gonna make me play as this character. I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing, whatever. And it just slowly but surely, I thought the game just won me over, and I was rooting for like, especially when it came down to picking between Abby and Ellie. I was like in my mind, okay, if they have to square off, I said Abby's swole. She's got this. She's like Ellie doesn't stand a chance. Ellie does not stand a chance. So
Well,
but I didn't
the
want
point
either
of the
character to
game,
die. I really didn't.
the point of the game where I had to fight Ellie as Abby, I didn't want to kill Ellie. I was like, she's going to kill her. Like, because she's just so much bigger and stronger and just like ridiculously, she's like a She-Hulk. So I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god, please
yeah.
don't kill her. I don't want Ellie to die.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't want either one of them to die, and and that's what I'm saying. It's like I was trying so hard to put myself in either one of their shoes, and it's how can you not just see that they're both right, or that that they're both wrong too? How can you
Yeah,
not see it? And I thought it was cool that Abby realized it first. She was the bigger one, you know.
Oh, she
I
was.
thought she was gonna slit Dina's throat. I really when she said she's pregnant and she said good, I was like, this is about to get bad.
Yeah, I
So,
was like,
yeah,
I really thought she was gonna do it, but um, I think it was like,
and she would have been totally justified. She'd have been totally justified in doing so,
And that's where I
and that's
think
why the game was amazing.
Abby's story was a story of redemption, whereas Ellie's was a story of revenge. The whole entire theme of the game was the cycle of violence. Whereas where you like if Abby would have slit the throat, it would have just continued the cycle of violence. Nothing, there would be no progression. And then if Ellie would have went through with her revenge and killed Abby at the end, Yara could have got away on that boat, and then there's the cycle. Yara is going to come back. I'm sorry, I said Yara. Lev,
Lev,
what is
yeah,
Lev,
Lev?
Lev would have came
Lev.
back, and she would have been the new protagonist, where you would have gone and tried to hunt down Ellie, and like the cycle of violence just continues and continues. That's why I think Ellie not following through at the end was actually the biggest victory that in the entire game.
Yeah, I thought if I don't know if either one of you are familiar with the film Looper. You know,
I've seen
Been
it, but I
it's
Bruce
been a
haven't.
long
Willis,
time.
Long
Jared,
time.
yeah, or Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yeah, it's a Ryan Johnson film, but anyways, it's there's a great the very end of the film, which is probably my favorite part of it, is when the character of Joseph Gordon-Levitt, when he goes, and then I saw it, you know, the never-ending cycle, you know, that only death and violence breeds more death and violence, and he's like the only way to stop it in his eyes was to, well, he had to like turn the gun on himself. But it's like, and that's kind of exactly what happened to like Ellie the second she like had her, you know, had that she had Abby underwater. She was choking her out. She was like crying and just feeling all this emotion. And then that quick flash of Joel just sitting on that, you know,
Yeah.
on the porch from their last talk, which you didn't even know about yet. You didn't even get to see what that talk is until the very end. And it's I just thought it was a great. It was like once again like everyone was right back in that room again. You know, Ellie became Abby, Abby became Joel, and Lev became Ellie at the end of the game. They are all like everyone was right back where they were at that room, and but this time Ellie had the golf club, you know, and she chose the right choice this time. So it was so good. The parallels, the dynamics, man. I couldn't get over it. I was like, God, I was like, this is just. I thought it was done so well and told so well. The whole revenge story, Ellie losing everything
Oh, even
just so she could
the
get some
ability
type
to
of
play guitar,
revenge.
man, that got me. Like
Yeah,
her losing her fingers and couldn't play guitar. I was like, got
and
me.
in a sense, you know, the game opens with Joel on that guitar while he's rubbing it and telling Tommy pretty much everything that happened the first game. And then and then it ends with that guitar once again, but this time it's propped up and Ellie's leaving it behind because she's finally been able to say goodbye to Joel. That's it, you know.
Yeah.
She's she's done her revenge. Like her story is almost complete. It feels like,
I
but
was saying that
that's
in
why
our
could
yeah. I'm
a
sorry.
sequel
Sorry to
could
cut you off.
do some great. Yeah, no, because like a sequel could do some great, and if you beat the game, you saw the new game plus screen with that boat sitting on the shore. That's
Yep.
Abby and Lev's boat. They made it to
They
the new
made it.
Fireflies.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah,
what I was
so
saying
it,
in our podcast. I was saying like the third one could easily you know how you say Ellie's story is complete, and yeah, sure, it kind of is, but there's always one thing that Ellie's been carrying with her since the first game, is that she's immune, and then she couldn't make the cure. It was stripped from her, and then I think like I said in the podcast, I was like, the best way to end the game would be that Abby has to come back and get Ellie. They have to join forces, tell her to come back. We found the Fireflies, and they can perform the immunity. And then what would top it off and make it even like better is that they are able to do it without her dying. And then that would be such a like a she could say thank you, Joel, like forgave Joel because she didn't have to die. Is
Yeah.
like, and now it just kind of makes everything.
Right, right.
I thought that would
Or
be really good.
Neil Druckmann will be in Contact.
Oh,
does
thank you,
die
thank
and
you.
the cure doesn't work. Or she does die and the cure doesn't work, and it's just sad for
Oh yeah,
everybody.
there's in true Last of Us fashion. There you go.
True Last of Us fashion.
Yeah.
Turns out,
You really
nope.
are the Last of Us.
We're all dead.
We're all dead.
It was a dream.
Yeah.
So I think like as far as we'll bring it back into the God of War versus Last of Us discussion here is that I think the Last of Us, I think the point that we're trying to make is it nails the themes, the direction that they want to take the story. And I mean, as I was playing the game, admittedly, I was like, man, this pacing feels weird. I'm gonna have to do 3 days with Abby. Like, these are the complaints that I'm
Thought the
hearing, where it's
same
like
thing.
pacing is bad.
Thought the same thing.
Right, and then, like, they're saying pacing is bad, but when you complete the game, you think back on the game and you're like, "Man, that was absolutely necessary. Everything put into this game was necessary." And if I didn't
Yeah.
have those 3 days with Abby, I still would have wanted Ellie to kill her. If I didn't
I
have
wanted
Abby
Ellie to kill
walking
her.
Oh yeah.
it worked on some people. It didn't work on
Still.
some people. But like if I didn't have that moment where Abby was crossing that sky bridge and just like being petrified of the heights and like the experience of where she's fighting the Rat King, and I'm like, we got through it. And I'm like, man, me and Abby, we've been through a lot. Me and her, like we got through it together, and like
Yeah.
now I have an attachment to her.
I threw Abby off the bridge.
I mean, yeah. On day one with
Well, no,
Abby,
well,
I
here
killed
I
her on
gotta ask.
purpose.
I
I
gotta
didn't
ask
like her.
Steven, why didn't you like Abby?
I didn't like Abby. It was solely for the reason she killed Joel. Mostly.
Okay.
I had such a strong connection with Joel and Ellie from playing through episode 1 that I could have cared less about her father dying, just because it didn't resonate with me the way Joel's death did in the grand scheme of things. I still never really got over the fact that she killed Joel.
Yeah,
Okay. Does the
yeah.
fact that Ellie would have wanted to die in any way change that opinion? The fact that Joel literally killed an innocent man for no reason other than selfishness. He did it literally for just there was no positive thing that came from it. He
Besides
killed that.
saving
He
Abby.
killed, and possibly this doctor could have been the only guy able to do this surgery, as far as we know.
Could have been.
Yeah,
And that,
and
and to you, you're still like,
I like Joel better as a
no,
character.
no, she should. I like Joel better. Well, that's good then. Well, that's at least good that they wrote that way. But like I said, I by the end of the game, I had everybody's shoes on my feet, and I was trying to just say like, like, don't you wish you could have like just stopped the end of the game and like grabbed both of them, like, listen to both of you, you have no idea how much in common you two have. Like, you're
gotta
so
step in and be the
alike.
father.
Just
Yeah,
stop
like
it.
break up the kids, man.
Like, you, yeah, like you guys should be in a couple together. You don't even know it.
Yeah.
I almost thought that was gonna happen for real. I was
Oh
like, is that
no,
where
I
they're
wouldn't have
going
liked
with
that.
this?
I wouldn't have liked that. I thought she was gonna have to end up
Yeah.
like teaming up with her or something. I was like, no, come on. But I just love that ending, man. Just with Ellie basically kind of letting go, like literally and figuratively, she let go. Like she's done. She let go of her her quest for vengeance, or all of the guilt that she had with the last thing she said to Joel, the like everything, like not forgiving Joel. Like she finally just like moves on. I don't know if she fully forgave Joel. She might have in that moment, or maybe she was
Never
just
got the chance.
now she's well, I mean, like in a way of saying like, hey, it's okay, Joel, or you know what I mean, like
Yeah, right, right,
yeah,
right. Like to him, the person. Yeah, okay.
yeah. But just kind of just moving on or accepting it, finding that. And I think what was the beauty of the story is that it's such a human story. Like there's mistakes that are made because of seeing red. Like there's she makes bad decisions. We all make bad decisions. We're not watching like we weren't playing as a superhero. We weren't playing as somebody who's going to do good at all times. We were playing as somebody who's going to make mistakes almost the same as we make mistakes. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah.
not almost, but as the same as we make mistakes. Like we would have in those
Right.
situations, we could have done the same thing. And I think what people have a hard time taking from The Last of Us Part 2 is that it's such a real story and it resonates with people so much that they don't want it.
Oh,
Yeah, sometimes you're just resistant. You're just resistant to that because it's showing a mirror to society and people don't like what they see. Um, but
I'm
whereas
I'm a much sorry. No, yeah, no, keep going.
no, go ahead, man.
Whereas
Yeah, no, just
no,
like
no, no, yeah, yeah, let you
I
finish.
was
Okay.
gonna switch gears over to God of War, but if you want to continue with Last of
Oh
Us,
yeah, well, no, yeah, no. This is no, well, this because it's the same thing. It's that's one of the reasons. Uh, you know, as far as which is the better game, it's gonna be whichever one you resonate towards more, and I feel like as much I loved God of War, I've loved Kratos ever since I've played him, like since I remember PlayStation 2 getting the damn game for my birthday. Like he is the man. Um,
but you
but it's like
see, like
you never get that sense that this guy exists on a realm that we exist in, that he exists on our plane, you know. He
one's
is a
very
character of fiction
yeah,
100%. He is
one is very
100% fiction.
mythological and one's very realistic. Yeah, like even
His
though there's zombies
even the
or
aspect of him. Well, yeah, well even the aspect of Kratos himself is a metaphor for what he is. Like he is a metaphor for what he is, literally,
mm,
because he is like that rock hard person who's like been through all that, and he just like you see the
Oh
age.
boy.
You know, that's probably the beard. Might be a lot of the beard, but you see the age. Whereas, and you know, go back to The Last of Us. This is like on that possibility of almost in the realm of possibility, if you want to say that.
yeah,
Granted, it is fiction. Cordyceps virus, zombies. They're freaking zombies. How real can it be?
yeah,
But that's almost like saying like a Last of Us thing. It's not you fight the zombies, but they're not the ones you fear. You know, you look
yeah.
Exactly.
after for the people that
Well,
are
what is his
around you,
name?
and
Bill
Bill.
said it best. He said it's not the zombies I'm worried about, it's the people because the zombies are predictable.
Hmm.
People aren't.
yeah, 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 yeah.
The people
I
that
mean,
scare
and,
me.
and I mean, just like The Walking Dead, the zombies eat their own, or the zombies don't even eat their own. You know,
Hmm.
people will eat you. People will throw you out to the dogs just for fun. I mean, and you got to see that with what was it, the Rattlers? They had the pools,
Oh
which
yeah,
was
yeah.
pretty cool.
That
That was
was
because that was
crazy. I hope
like
the
the
third one
first one I
focuses
came
on a
up
little more.
when he had like the guy chained up and he was like teasing him. And the second he turned around and walked away, I was like, oh yeah, I'm cutting that chain, baby. I was like, go get him, go get him. So, um,
I didn't know that
yeah, and
that you
that's
could cut the chain.
yeah, yeah. If you snuck up on
Yeah.
him without getting their attention, they'd still be
Mhm.
focused on the other guys. Yeah, you could. Yeah. Well, there was so much stuff I didn't know I could. I didn't know there were executions to that. Like you
Oh yeah,
could
if you shoot
execute
him in the
almost all the
knee, God,
characters
there's
you come
so
across.
much. That's gameplay. That's gameplay. We're
That's
gonna
a
get to
lot of
gameplay in just
detail.
a
Yeah.
second. Yeah, let's get the gameplay in a
I
second.
didn't know.
Let's stick with the story. So we're gonna switch gears over to God of War. And I know we kind of touched on it a little bit, but as Robert was saying, um, yeah, there's two different things, like two different sides here. You got the mythological side, and then the more hard truth realism side. But I kind of actually I agree, but I also kind of disagree with it. Whereas God of War, they took something that was so fantastical and so just narrow one track mind in the first three games, where it was just like I'm going to kill them all. You know what I mean? Kill all the gods. Uh, whereas
Finish
Kratos,
him.
they take this one dimensional
I'm
character.
going to raise
Yeah.
the one.
Dude, well, they take the one-dimensional character of Kratos and they add like they I loved
Like
it. I
he
love
turns into an onion. There's just
That's-
layers.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
layers.
yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna
It's
say.
the onion.
It's
Shrek.
onion, baby.
He's like,
Killing that
cake?
thing, man.
You mean like cake?
That's all
But
this.
dude,
That's all I was gonna say.
uh,
He turned exactly into an onion. That was good.
yeah, there's so many layers, man. It must have been a sweet onion too. You know what I mean, guys? We had the god, like Kratos, and then his son, which was, we find out
Let's call.
later that he's
Let's
Loki.
call him boy.
But
Let's call him boy. Alright.
I'm sorry,
Boy.
we have Boy, who is bringing in the
Boy.
human aspect of it, and I loved how this father-son dynamic, how they rubbed off
think-
on each other. Like they traded paint. You know what I mean? Whereas we're like Kratos is teaching his boy how to be how to how to be a god, but whereas Boy is teaching Kratos how to be human. And I just loved how like throughout the entire story, they trade paint like the entire time, and nothing in that game was put in the game as filler. Nothing, everything from side quests to obviously the main story, everything was meant for one sole purpose, for them to trade paint, to rub off on each other, to grow as characters. And even like even the side quests where you're like where that it's been a while since I played, but where's that dead guy or something like that, and Atreus really wanted to follow the trail, and then and
Or he
Kratos was
wanted to
He
like
wanted you to
help the
avenge.
spirits.
Yeah, he
the
wanted
helpless spirit.
to avenge
Yes.
his
Yeah.
family, and Kratos is like, "We ain't got time for this." He's like,
Yeah,
"What do you
he's
mean?"
like, you don't
And
trust
Atreus is
it,
like, "You should
don't
help
trust it.
people.
Yeah, and then I think,
We should help
and then
people."
Atreus learns a very valuable lesson there, where Kratos was able to teach him that lesson, and I think that, and just that's just one example, but there's throughout the whole game, I remember that there just being so many um side quests, but none of them felt like they were just there for exposition, like they were there for a purpose. And I just think that as
Mm.
far as we were talking about with Last of Us, them nailing the direction and the themes that they were going for, I think the same thing can be said for God of War. I think the theme for God of War was to a T. You know what I mean? Was delivered to a T. Like
I think
any other thoughts on God of War, guys?
the I'm more on the God of War team, and I think part of that reason is because of the father son aspect of it. That I mean that kind of really hit me. Just you're basically helping this kid grow and become something greater than what he starts out as. So it's just cool from the aspect of just seeing how
Yeah.
much he changes from the beginning of the game to this helpless little kid to actually being a little bit of a badass and was pretty helpful in
Mhm.
a lot of situations. So for me,
And dude,
that
I just want to stop right there because I'm
yeah,
gonna let you continue. But if you flip the script, you go from somebody who was like Kratos, where he's just a one-dimensional character, and how he grew. Like, you know what I mean? That's the thing. Like, they
yeah,
just this give and take thing, and like you could have literally said exactly what you just said, word for word, and I could have flipped
just
it
like
from you were talking about Atreus, you were talking
yeah.
about Kratos. You know what I mean?
And I think the cool thing about these two games, Sony's go-to is the third person game essentially. They
Yeah.
have third person game set in Japan. They have a third person game set in a futuristic dinosaur world.
Robots.
They have a god setting. They have real life grounded Last of Us 2. But these two are kind of on the opposite spectrums. One's more of like a beat the shit out of everything that you can, and Last of Us is like a stealth kind of, if you try to just kill everybody, you're
Rip
more
your
than likely going to
entrails
get
out.
wrecked. Right.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the other cool thing about these two games is like, do you prefer to just go and murder everybody that you see and rip them apart, or do you want to do you prefer that stealthy style gameplay where
Okay.
one involves a little bit more thinking the other, but I think as far as combat goes, like it's just so fun being Kratos.
All right. So we're
Not
drifting into gameplay. I just kind of want
Sorry.
to I want to get story just for a second here. Between God of War and Last of Us, we kind of set our pieces for that. Story wise, do we have a winner?
I think both of you are
I give
probably
them
going
10 out
Last
of
of Us.
10, both of them.
Yeah.
Right, 10 out of 10,
I
both
think
of them.
both of them get it. Like if I had to give like just like if like story and if I'm grading just
You
story,
have to,
they both get 10 out of 10.
but you have to
That's
give it.
easy.
Yeah.
If
You
I
have to
have
choose
to,
just
okay,
one.
I have to pick one.
Yeah.
I have to pick
I'm going
one.
God.
Yeah.
Going for the
Oh,
God.
Go- yeah.
oh. I gotta pick one for just the story alone.
Just the story alone.
Don't draw this out. Just pick one.
No, this is going to
Sorry,
be
Last
very
of Us
tough.
2.
This is
No,
very
Last
tough.
of Us. I just
So the other thing
dude
we have to take in effect here is the
that
recency
part
effect.
with the guitar.
Mhm.
When she's playing the guitar, bro, and I'm hitting the notes, I'm wondering why it wasn't sounding so good. Cause I was like, am I messing up? I thought it was me. I thought me like on the controller. I was like, oh, I'm not hitting the stuff right. And then it dawned on me, she can't play the guitar
She lost
anymore.
her
And
fingers, man.
there,
God.
even when I was like playing through God of War, even when I was playing through God of War, and that they're just I can't recall like one moment that measured up to even just that, as much as I loved that game and it has some awesome,
It
especially
does.
the action set pieces are so good.
Mm-hmm.
That realization of Ellie, this character that I fell in love with, and I'm sitting here like, man, if I have a girl, we're gonna name that bitch Ellie, I think, because she is the man.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I gotta give the nudge.
That's a good point, man. If you take that scene or any really, God, there's so many good scenes in Last of Us Part Two where they're just like emotionally, like just hammered in. Um, I don't know if I could find a. I mean, obviously, God of War had moments like that. Like they had not like that. I'm
And
sorry, moments that are really personal and. Go ahead, Rob.
I'm saying personally, I prefer, maybe I do prefer that bittersweet ending.
Hmm.
I'm more of a not everyone deserves a happy ending. And granted, God of War is only part one, and what I'm sure is going to be a great trilogy.
Yeah.
So maybe
Well,
that's also why I
set up
favor,
some pretty grim
like if
future
God of War 2, they kill Kratos, and you never know.
by Atreus.
But
Let Atreus betray us.
I could live with Atreus dead.
Will Atreus kill Kratos though?
But
What?
that was my thing. I think I prefer bittersweet, so that's why I give the nudge. So Gator.
Yeah, that's such a tough one. And I know, like, we're not supposed to, we're not going to be dragging this on, but like, I'm so conflicted. And story, obviously, we started right off the bat with story, which was I didn't want to do it, but it's just the way it happened. I kind of wanted to start with
Rob,
sound.
Rob, you look like such a tool right now doing that.
Robert, why don't you give us your thoughts again while you have this cloud and smoke going around you?
Oh, it's just so good. I was
Oh
like, because Danny's doing it, I'm just like,
man. Yeah, dude, I'm gonna go with and then the recency effect thing is not really so much for me because I have been playing God of War. And I'm pretty far into it right now. Um like I'm playing it again. I gotta go
Call him the
Last
other
of
day.
Us. I gotta go Last of Us Part Two on story. Just because I just think it's just I mean, it's just executed so well. And like I said earlier in the podcast, if you don't agree, then maybe, and I'm not like judging or anything, but maybe you just need to kind of take a step back and look at the bigger picture of what Last of Us is kind of portraying here. And then maybe you kind of like, I mean, just watch interviews with Neil Druckmann, get a better sense of what they were going for. And then I think maybe you have a change of heart on that. Just because the pacing is not an issue. That's one of the biggest things I've seen. It like for me, pacing's not an issue. It's just like watching, like binge watching the first season of something where obviously, if you want to talk about a Last of Us series versus a Last of Us movie that has to be 2.5 hours long, or versus a Last of Us series that has to be like 20 hours. It's just something like similar to that, right? Whereas it gives you the pacing of a series, a TV series, rather than a blockbuster movie, I guess.
That's a
Um,
great. That's a good way to look at it. Too. It felt like. Sorry,
if
I
yeah,
cut you off.
no, no,
But
no,
it's
no,
like I was watching an HBO. It's like I was watching like a 6-part HBO movie, like a
yeah,
6-part. Like it
like
just
Chernobyl.
kept.
yeah,
Yeah. It felt almost like Chernobyl. Yeah, and it's like, and it just kept.
good references.
The I will say there was at one point where I was like, man, I don't know. Because I was telling somebody at work, I was like, I don't know. We flashed forward 3 years. I fell asleep. We had a 2-week dream from 2 weeks ago. Now I think I'm 4 years in the future. I was like, I don't know what the fuck the story's doing right now. But it all comes together in the end, and you eventually get it all kind of lined up in your head because it's not that difficult. I would say the timeline's very difficult to follow.
No,
I
it's
think
really
it's
not.
very easy to tell
Oh yeah,
where the characters are at
All you
while
got
go
to
back
they're
and play it a
do
while
second
you're
time
playing
is
the
too.
look at
video.
Abby's ponytail.
Looking
Yeah,
at
well,
me,
that's
dude,
true. It
I
changes.
I had to show Heather because Heather didn't watch me play the ending because she was watching me play
Oh,
most of it, but she wasn't
God.
here for the ending.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like,
Why?
babe, I was like, here, I went to the extras where you could like see the character models, and I
Oh yeah,
took Abby from the pillars, and I was like, babe, this is what she looks like. Like she like leads into the room. Oh my god,
dude. Right. No,
she's
as we were going
hideous.
into that encampment, I just kind of went, I said, oh my God, I think we're going to see like a very, very skinny Abby. Like I was just telling Laura that, but as we were entering, I said, we're going to see a beaten up, skinny Abby. And then like that whole like beast mode Abby that we've seen like throughout the entire game is
Swole.
now it's
God,
there.
she was
Like now you're
swole.
going to think back on it like, oh my God, this is going to be even more impactful when you see her. And it is.
Right.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
I love the whole reason as to why she was such a brick shithouse. Because she literally trained her body so
Yes.
that if she ever came across fucking Joel, and if she was one on one with him, she would at least have a chance. Like that
Obsession.
was her sole purpose in life.
It's what
Yeah,
obsession
she
looks like.
obsessed over it. Yeah,
Yeah. That's what
yeah, and
obsession looks like on a person. You know what I mean? Like obsession with revenge. And like look, this is what I think just solidifies my decision as Last of Us winning the story is just because yeah, we can talk about God of War and how amazing it was and how amazing the story was and how it nails every story beat and it's just so good. But I'm still talking about The Last of Us Part 2. Like I'm still gonna be like just amazed by how first of all, amazed by how well it's done. First of all, and then second of all, how I went from hating to um like just understanding to acceptance to actually forgiveness and just all with Abby in a single character. And then of course Ellie's story was on point too, but like I'm still going to be revisiting Last of Us Part 2 story, whereas God of War, I was like, yes, they nailed it. But I'm waiting for the second one now. You know what I mean? Where there's the conversation
right, exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
stops there, kind
We've
of.
moved
But
on. It's kind of like to say like with the God of War, it's like
yeah,
God of War is great, but we want to talk about God of War 2 now. You know,
yes,
We're-
yes, yes.
It's
Last of
what,
Us
2 years
2
old at this
just came
point?
out.
Yeah, I was just about to say, even in
Yeah, it is 2
2018,
years old.
in
It is
2018,
2 years old, but I mean, I
same
would say
situation.
up until I played Last of Us 2, up until I played The Last of Us 2, I would say like I still tell people if you haven't played God of War, I'm like, oh, you should play God of War. It's fucking
Yes.
phenomenal. It's my game of the year. Easy game of the year. I was like one of my favorites of all time. I think just because I love the RPG style of combat that was added to the customization of
Okay,
Kratos.
yeah.
Like
Let's
that's
get to
everything I've always wanted.
see. This is
Let's
what
go. Yeah. Okay. We're in
yeah. This is where
gameplay
we're
then.
gonna get. This is where we're gonna draw the like. Okay, so great. 10 out of 10 masterpiece for both stories, but Last of Us Part 2 is going to edge out the win here just because it's more of a deep and ongoing conversation. Whereas God of War is like, man, I can't wait for the second one. We got a lot of setup there.
I think it's
Gameplay,
because with the story in Last of Us 2, it affected people differently, whereas
Mhm.
the story on God of War, I don't I don't think you get that same like
It's not philosophical or whatever.
right,
Like
yeah.
it's not an
Right.
ongoing conversation. But I mean, that's not to say that God of War story wasn't a 10 out of 10 because it is. So we're gonna
No,
move on to
I,
yeah.
yeah, if we're doing like a scale number wise, like I could almost put a 10 in every category for each one of these games. There's like only one or two things that make me nitpick, and like one of them sound. One of them is sound is but I mean we'll get to that later. But I
Okay.
mean like if we're doing gameplay, yeah, if we're doing gameplay, everything that they added in God of War to the original, like everything that they added, everything perfect.
Mm. Yeah.
Perfect. Literally. I I couldn't want more if you gave it to me. Like I was like, I don't know like what else they could have put in God of War to make me enjoy it more.
Isn't it crazy?
It
Literally, it
was a
was that
lot. It
much
was a
fun.
blast to play
It
that
was
game.
that much fun.
10 out of
Yes,
10,
it
man.
was. God, it was fun.
This is where I'm gonna have
God,
an issue because
but see,
like everything
well,
is
see,
a
that's the thing. Like,
masterpiece.
God of War
Every
brings a
category.
smile. God of War makes me bring a smile to my
I
face
don't
when
know,
I think
dude.
about like what I
Last of
did
Us
and
brought a
how I
smile to
played
my
The Last of Us 2. I'm like, dude, it was good.
yeah.
Man, like, no, the combat's amazing, but it's like I feel like I'm serious when I talk about the combat. Like,
Oh boy,
nah,
Yeah.
dude, it's
is it
like the stuff
lagging?
you could do in The Last of Us is like, uh, was it lagging for a second? Oh,
No, I think we're good.
Yeah,
I
oh,
think
we're
we're
okay.
mine. Well,
fine.
mine
But
was. Maybe it was just
but
me.
Oh.
yeah, and maybe that's because God of War is like it's fantasy. It's that fantasy element where it's yeah, I want to grab this creature and literally rip it apart from
Yeah,
head to asshole with my
and
bare hands.
that's where
Yes.
we're in two opposite spectrums of the gameplay realm here. You got godlike stuff, and then you got grounded in real world.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of like,
Yeah.
but they
Well,
both have.
yeah.
It's
We'll
just
keep it focused on their individual rather than doing like a comparison right now.
Differences.
Yeah, let's just keep them to what they set out to do and how they, how they did it. So like with God of War, right? Like Robert said, it brought a smile to my face playing it. But dude, and this I'm going to be going back and forth a lot here, so stick with me. Whereas Last of Us, I can say the same thing, man. That was one of the most smooth and fluid games, like as far as like animations, what is given to the player, like the abilities that you can do, like the options. You go into a battleground and you have so many options, and it took me actually, I don't know if I had beaten the game and I went back for my second playthrough or very, very near the end of the first playthrough. You can dive backwards on your back. I didn't even know this. You can dive back on your back and start shooting from your back in Last of Us Part 2. You can rope swing and go and do an assassination from the air. I didn't know that you could
I,
assassinate
I
people from the second floor. Yeah.
I didn't know
Uh,
that. I learned it very late.
yeah.
Very
And
late.
like Robert said, shooting somebody in the knee brings them down to one knee, and then like, oh my god, the facial animations of them with
yeah.
their desperation and like, oh god, and like, and you just walk up to them and you have options there too. You could shoot them in the face, and I mean, when you shoot somebody in the face, you don't get just the blood like poof. You get the bullet looks like you can see the head ricochet backwards. Everything just felt so visceral, and I know God of War is all about being visceral, but like this felt real. Like this felt so real. And um
Difference when it comes to shooting someone with a gun and then chopping them up with this big gigantic
yeah.
axe.
Well,
So
see,
it
like that's where the fun comes in, right? So the fun
right.
part of God of War is
To
you can run around with you have so many options with God of War is when you level up. I'm playing New Game Plus right now, so I have all of my abilities, and I'm still relearning some of the abilities that I got. I was like, oh wow, I can do this with the Leviathan axe. I can do this with the shield. I can cause a shockwave. Um, and I guess where I would say is like you said, the two different spectrums. God of War feels more like an arcade experience. Like you're going in there just rip and tear. Whereas The Last of Us, man, just so visceral. The stealth is better, a lot better. It may not be like actually I don't know. It might be one of the best. It's one of the best stealth games I've played. Um, just because it's giving you so much movement. You can dive into the grass, and that was really cool. Like being able to crawl around in the grass. Just
Yeah,
that
they
that
add pro.
God of War
Thank
though, like
God, thank God they added it.
yeah, yeah, thank
Well,
God, and it
this is
changes everything.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, like you said, like you didn't know, right? Like Steven, did you know that you could air assassinate somebody in The Last of Us? Like, I'm not sure if you knew that.
I
Did
did.
you
I
know
can't
that?
remember how far into the game I was when I found out. What I didn't
Right.
know is that you could
Well,
push someone into infected and have them eat their faces. That's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I didn't learn that too. I didn't know that until like well, I learned that halfway by I'd get them to fight each other. I'd get the infected and the other two guys to fight each other. But no, it's like here's the thing. It was like, well, why didn't we think that that was something in the game to jump on somebody from air above and to assassinate them? Because in the real world, you wouldn't try that, right? In the real world, you're like, I probably wouldn't do that. That doesn't look too safe. So it's
Right.
like it's so cool that the game itself, like it like in your head, you're like, make smart decisions, right?
Yeah,
So
run
even though
away if
you
you have to.
can jump through the air and assassinate somebody, it's like but the most obvious choice would not to be that, like, it would be to go about it in a different route, you know? And like, to think about that is, like, for gameplay, it's like, that's incredible. It's like the game is like it's put so many things in the game without telling you. God of War did the same thing too, with a few things that you kinda have to, like, learn, um but I mean, most of the stuff were like hints, you know, for that. But
Mhm.
God of War had, or not God, but The Last of Us Part Two just had so many like little things that I like picked up on and learned as I went through it. Like you were saying, like the assassinations. There was one part. It was like the very end, and I was running around, and I had the shotgun, and this guy pokes up his head behind a box, and I already knew it before I pulled the trigger how this was going to happen, and I was so off center that it didn't blow his whole head off. It blew like a moon-shaped crescent like through his head. And like so his head was still there, but just a little bit of it. And I'm just like, God, that was amazing. Like real quick, it's like, okay, get back into the game. Like I gotta go.
Uh,
And it was like stuff like that where I was just like, God, that looks sweet, man. And there was one part Heather was watching me play, and I think I even like texted you guys. She's watching me play, and she's just like, did you just take that guy's jaw off? Because I
mm.
hit him with like my weapon that I'd upgraded. And I was like, I don't. And I looked back at his body like it's lying on the ground. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I took
It's
his jaw off. Yeah, sure,
and it's
sure as
like
hell did.
if you swing your knife or something, you can see the slash mark. Like, and it's all
Yep.
it's all contextual, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like where it happens. Like so if you slice them right in the chest, like you can see the chest kind of slice. And like you said with the face, man, if you hit them in the face, like I was in a knife fight or whatever, and the knife went across the face and like it left this big scar on her face, and I was just like, that is just. I mean, I never ripped somebody's jaw off, but I believe it. Like
Right.
I believe that's what you can do in that game.
I was
Um,
I know I told you about I turned on the infinite breath, like you can go into the accessibility, just turn on infinite breath. I did it just because for exploring, like early in the game, there's a few times as Ellie where you have to swim, and I just got tired of pinging
oh,
shit underwater and having to
yeah.
keep going back and finding it. So towards the very, very end, I can't remember if I was Ellie or Abby, but you're swimming in like knee deep water basically, and once you go underwater they can't see you at all. Like you could swim right up to them, and it's like your jaws pretty much. And I think I was telling you about that because I had the infinite breath on. I could just swim around to everybody where they were and just like hit circles, stand up real quick, grab them, kill them, then go
I
back
bet
under and
you
just
I
swim
bet you
away.
had a
Yep.
blast in that one section where you're getting the boat from like, and I guess that wasn't the aquarium. It wasn't the aquarium, but you were like getting the boat so you could go to the aquarium, and there was so much water everywhere. You were probably just having a blast with that, just swimming
Those
God,
around.
were
it was
terrible.
so yeah, it was too much swimming. Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's why I had to turn on that ping, man, because I was like, dude, I am going to so many like dead ends.
yeah.
Like I'm wasting a lot of time. And it's like I
Do the
wanted to get
same
the game
thing.
over with, but I want to enjoy it.
That
I wanted to enjoy it. But
that's a good point.
that's why I was so happy about that ping
Mhm.
system. And I wish God of War had something like that, bro. Honestly.
The
It's
accessibility
kind of a cheat, but
options the accessibility options is definitely a highlight of Last of Us Part 2 that I think is definitely worth mentioning in this conversation, as far as gameplay goes, is the accessibility options are insane of how much you can do with that. And just like Robert just said, you can send out a ping, you can spot stalkers. It just gives you, if you want a more laid back experience, you can have that laid back experience with the game. I personally
You can
didn't.
turn your
I really enjoyed
ally
it.
into a badass. You could turn your allies into a badass too. That's another setting where it happened to me. Well, I didn't turn it to it, but I think I told you I was shooting somebody with my bow and arrow, and then I think I had Jesse with me,
Mhm.
and I was like engaging, but I wanted to do it safely. Like I said, I shot one guy with the bow and arrow, and then he just starts, "Yeah, let's get these fuckers," and fucking just bow shotgun, and then of course they're all like, "They're here," and I was like, "Why would you do that?" I'm
Come
like,
on,
"What
Jesse.
is wrong with you?" It's like
Jesse
that's
Oh,
why
didn't
you
give a
got shot
shit.
in the face, Jesse. Ugh.
oh man.
Mm.
But what I
Yeah.
mean,
But I
like,
mean,
and then let's switch over to because obviously there's so much to talk about with Last of Us and how fluid and smooth and the accessibility options and all this other stuff and how real and visceral it feels. Um, but let's go to God of War, man. This is that fun arcadey experience, and dude, it is fun. Um, it's so much fun to play as God of as Kratos and Atreus. It has his own kind of like he's tied to the square button, so you can do moves with you can set up cool combos with Atreus. Like you can swing him up in the air and then have Atreus just nail him with a bunch of arrows. I thought that was a lot of fun.
right.
Fighting and then the big action set pieces like on the dragon, just insane. I wish they would have done more, but then I also kind of understand that they didn't do more with the big massive action set pieces because this is obviously going to be a new trilogy. And I think you have to build up to that. But the dragon fight, it was awesome.
Dragon fight was fun.
Fighting the brothers, so, that was so fun. And such a
Magni and
pivotal
Modi
moment.
boss fight was okay.
It
I
was it
think the
was
Magni
very
Modi boss fight was all right.
okay. I mean, like, I just loved it, like, when they did, like, the whole, like, surrounding the area with that fog of war type thing going on, and then, like, running at you with, like, back to back with Atreus. And it was such a pivotal
I,
moment for Atreus as well.
or- I mean,
But,
it's like I was trying to think something about like the boss battles is what I was trying to get to, but I can't remember where I was going at
I can
as
hardly
far as the
remember any of the boss
gameplay.
battles. It's been like over a year since I played it, so
mhm.
it's been a minute.
Like, I'm playing it right now, and then also under gameplay that, I have to throw in there is just the RPG elements, like, being able to, upgrade your
Yeah.
equipment and
Okay.
the secret like side quest to find that better equipment, fighting the
that-
Valkyries, oh my
Uh,
god, dude.
Valkyries were a pain in
okay.
the.
Oh, that's what I wanted to get to. That's it. Okay. Um. Okay. If I wanted to give like probably a great nod for gameplay to God of War, I can't remember the last time I felt such accomplishment in beating a boss than when I beat Sidra. That I felt like a god of war. Okay, I will give you that. All right, I
Yeah,
was a god among men when I beat
were you
her.
playing it on hard
It
mode?
was
Because
I
I
wasn't,
played it on
bro.
hard mode,
No,
dude.
because
I could not beat her.
even on normal, dude, even on normal,
Yeah,
she was so bad. The timing is so difficult to get down, and she's so erratic because she has all the moves of the other Valkyrie, and she doesn't have a
it's
pattern
insane.
set.
It's
She doesn't have
insane.
a fucking pattern set.
I don't think I killed all the
Ugh.
Valkyries. I killed most of them. I don't think I killed all of them though. I never
I
went.
got down to that queen. Yeah.
I never went through and did all the side stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the that
a lot of
one
fun. The Valkyries are cool.
Avaldi, the mists of Avaldi, that place.
Oh, yep.
Like finding that Valkyrie was a big pain in the butt because you lose health the entire time you're there. So you have to not only lose health, but you have to fight your way through,
Like a
find
Zelda
her,
version.
kill her, and then get all the way out of the damn maze, you know?
Yeah.
Um but okay, if we're gonna go with some gameplay and stuff, backtracking.
Yeah, like
Stuff
the
I hate to
Metroidvania style.
uh yeah, I hate backtracking, and The Last of Us, I can't recall if you did backtracking, you were a different character,
Yeah,
so
right.
therefore it's not considered backtracking.
Mhm. No, no,
I mean,
it didn't have any
and
backtrack.
maybe that's a design of like the open world that the God of War kind of had, and but I know that there was backtracking in God of War, but that was like puzzle stuff, because God of War, in a sense, it did have puzzles, but its puzzles were meant to be, you know, puzzles, literal puzzles.
Yeah.
Whereas the only thing, dude, I was so cool. I figured out how to open one of the safes without finding one of the combinations.
Oh, because
I
I
was
used
so
the high
happy about
school
myself.
I was telling Laura that you're talking about Last of Us. I was telling Laura, I was like, hold on, I can open this without finding the safe," and she was like, what are you talking about?" And I was doing it, I was like, "Listen, you can hear the tick, like, tick, tick," and I went, "There it
Oh
is."
yeah, yeah. I didn't
Yeah,
know you could do that.
I was like,
Yeah,
"Is
I
the
didn't know
tick
you could
here
do
up to a
that.
locker?" And I said, "This is like the high school trick," and Laura was like, "How many lockers did you break into?" And I was like I was like,
Yeah,
I
All the
didn't break in
lockers.
there."
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
But no, the one I opened, it was the guy said it was like the wedding anniversary. It's our wedding anniversary. And I was just walking around and I looked at the calendar on the wall and it had like their 30th day wedding anniversary
Yeah,
circled. And I was just
yeah.
like going through, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, if that's that, I was like, and so I was like, it was so cool that I made the connection before it was even there, and I was like, so is it this? And I put the date in, it opened, and then I found the note that said where it was. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I did it. All right.
See,
For
that's why
the
I kinda hoped it would've done that more often because that's how I found that one too, by looking at the calendar. And I think somebody's complaint that I was watching, or it might have been in our own podcast, I don't know, where they were somebody complained that, they would have rather had it given to you. Like in, Last of Us Part 1 where you find a combination safe, uh, you go up to it and it basically just tells you what it is. Like you just open it. You don't have to put it in. It just opens because you found the combination.
yeah, I don't think
Uh,
that was our podcast.
Uh,
it wasn't ours. Okay. See,
uh,
I like being able, it gives me a sense of accomplishment where I found that combination and I kind of wish there was more of those
Right.
environment clues rather than a note. Um but that, cuz that's how I found the calendar, the anniversary one.
Guys,
I looked at
the
the
one that was in the soda machine, did you guys get that one for the door? So it had like part of the code in the soda machine, and you had to figure out the rest to open one of the doors.
oh,
calendar.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because the guy wanted a soda.
Right.
It
And
was like,
she's
simply,
like,
hey,
"Well,
you
you
want
can
a
get a
soda?
soda if you do something with this or
Yeah, I figured out the code. I don't know how, but I know I figured it out. I didn't
well,
miss. I
so
don't think
one
I missed a safe or a workbench.
I don't think I think I missed safes. I don't think I missed workbenches though. I don't remember.
Well,
I don't remember.
if we're gonna talk about like the gameplay quality, because like I love the customization about God of War. Like I was so happy about that. Um, I wish like you could Ellie. I wish for Ellie or even Abby, you could have found like maybe a better backpacks,
Mm,
better clothing or something. But I mean, even if it was just aesthetic, like even if
yeah.
it does nothing, for the character, even if it's just something for aesthetics. So I thought that was something I wanted, which I thought had been just a little cool, but that's just nitpicking. However, the sounds and effects on the workbenches was like sound porn, bro. I
And the
mean,
animations too, yeah.
I I could just yeah, yeah, like when she was going like I was like sitting there going like how in the hell did you just like carve a hole through a metal pipe with like a screwdriver? But anyway, I don't care. I was like, I'll give it to you. It
At
looks
least they did
cool.
the animation.
But yeah. Oh my god, it was so like just like yeah, you click on something that ping ting
Yeah.
ting screech screech like I was just like, "Whew, that feels good."
There you go, and that's our sound review for
Hmm.
just that there.
Yeah, yeah, that's a sound review, man. But like game okay, yeah, if I had to go to give an overall gameplay, they both get a 10, obviously. But however, when I was playing God of War, the only time I could remember when my adrenaline was crazy was when I was doing the burning tower challenges.
Mhm.
Um, it's in I forgot the world, but the world of fire, and the dude
Yes, yeah, hell, right?
Sutter his sword.
Is it
Helmheim?
Helheim?
Helmheim? Is
Yeah,
that it?
I believe it is.
Helheim?
I think so.
No,
No,
Helheim's
no, no.
the
Helheim was
frost
actually
place.
it threw me off because that's right. That's right. Hell was
Cold
not a
place.
world of fire. It was a world of yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Overwhelmed. But okay, so that was when I was playing God of War. That was the only time like I remember my adrenaline because some of the challenges were just ridiculous, and you
Yeah.
had to like your timing and precision had to be like on point.
Mhm.
However, when I was playing The Last of Us, I don't know how many times where I got into situations where I was just so nervous because it's like when you take out that first person and no
Yeah.
one notices you, and you're like, okay. And then you take out that second person and no one notices you. You're like, okay. And then the tension's building up a little bit. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, I just found Matt. And you're like trying to find that person so you can hurry up and kill him. And then it's like, oh no, your cover's blown. And it's like, okay, you could kill
5 more
everyone
people
now,
come.
or I can restart the encounter all over and try to do it again and just do it like that.
Yeah.
It's like oh man, my heart was racing so many times while I was doing just like encounters because it was like I was trying to like pull off some awesome little trick or just I loved all the weapons you could use, like the smoke bombs, the traps, the sniper, like you have a silencer, you got the bow and arrow. I mean, it was just
An
picking
arrow
up the
was so much
bottles and the
better in the
bricks and
second
throwing
one.
them. Oh yes. Oh my god. Dude, the crossbow was money. The crossbow was so good.
Yeah.
When you're Abby and I found that crossbow, that became my gun. That was it. Didn't need any other
I
gun.
really like that the single shot, or I don't know if it was single shot or not, but you might have been able to upgrade.
The
But
hunting pistol.
hunting pistol, because when you shot somebody with God, this sounds so bad. When you shot somebody with it, it almost was always a reaction where
One
they're
shot
like,
kill.
yeah, yeah. Like they're just, like you can just hear them out there. Lara's like, oh my God, what did you do to them? And I'm like, I just
It wasn't
but
He
me.
got shot. He got
Steven,
shot.
Steven, what game do you I think Robert, what you just said was you basically edged out Last of Us as the gameplay winner here?
Yeah, yeah, I gotta go with that. Yeah, man.
Okay. Steven,
I
what do you
think
got, man?
I'm gonna do the same. I really am with Robert on this. I think with all of us on this one where there was some extremely intense moments, especially when you're trying your damnedest to not get seen or the person you killed not get seen. It
Oh,
just like because you knew if someone saw you, you were more than likely going to die or it was not going to end well.
Mhm.
Especially when you're low on
right. Shit
ammo,
gets
you
real.
only you have like your little knife and you're just trying to
Oh
butcher people
man.
up with that little knife, especially when you're Ellie. It's yeah, that is definitely some of the most intense gameplay. God of War, hands
Yeah.
down, in terms of fun. God
Mhm.
of War, I think, is more
Yeah.
fun. But if you're going for like intense, like makes you really like think what you're doing majority of the time. So
Mhm.
more often than not, you have to think what you're doing in Last of Us 2. Um, that's where I kind of give the nod to Last of Us 2 on this one.
That's a good
Now,
point.
did you
Thoughtful
I would
combat.
I just want
What's
to
up?
ask you guys a question.
Go ahead, man.
Did you guys do this? Like, say you're going through looting and you see scissors, but you're full on scissors. Would you then go into your inventory, see if there's something you can make that
Yep,
requires scissors, and
Definitely.
then pick up the scissors? Like, yeah, Steve's like, yep,
I
One
was
hundred
like,
percent.
scissor me
like
timbers.
I am leaving nothing behind. There is nothing getting wasted.
I would always see if I could craft something every time I see something I
And
could
I
build.
do,
it
dude.
would be annoying when you would not get what you need to
Yeah,
craft stuff for the longest time. I'm
Mhm.
like, all right, I just need like one piece of linen or whatever the heck it is, just to make what I want, and you didn't find it for the longest time.
I want to throw in
I
another
hated.
nod to Last of Us though. So in Last of Us Part One, if you're watching the podcast, not listening, you can see my animation here. In Last of Us One, you go like this to loot. You swing both arms back and forth, and then
Oh yeah,
and
Yeah,
you're just
yeah.
looting.
you
Whereas
look
this
like a
game,
gorilla.
yeah, like she actually grabs what it like wherever it's at, she actually grabs it. And I thought that was just I was like, this is just the little things, guys. Just the little things here.
Dude, yeah, they said that they did individual animations for
Yeah,
every
man.
single like loot grab in the game.
So
Like every loot grab has its own
yeah, if it's
animation.
behind you,
That's
she'll
so
she'll
awesome.
reach behind you, or and everything.
Right.
That's just a little nod
Dude,
that I love
I hated
about it. Little things in that game.
when you had like your lead pipe or your machete, and you still had like 4 or 5 hits with it before you could use, tape and then it'll upgrade it all the way back to full. And if you have the upgrade, it'll actually give you more, right? Well, the problem is like I'd be full on tape and I'd be full on scissors, but I would have a weapon. And it's like I don't want to waste, those 4 swings. It's like I want to use those 4 swings and then use the tape and the scissors and then I'll
Exactly.
need that stuff. So it's like I left behind like so much stuff because it's like I had a weapon and I'm just like it still has good use. I don't want to waste. And dude, like getting fast crafting, because I don't know how many times like I hit somebody like 2 or 3 times, killed them, immediately like go to the ground, apply tape and scissors, and somebody runs right up, and then they're just like one shot kills, where you're just like,
Yeah.
this game was just
So
so great.
So, yeah, basically, kind of piggybacking off of what Steven said, that it's thoughtful. It's thoughtful combat. Going into it, and it is high adrenaline. What is like so basically taking what Robert and Steven said, thoughtful, high adrenaline combat. For Last of Us Part Two. So for me, as far as gameplay goes, this is one going into this podcast that I was really struggling with. With as well as every other category in this freaking podcast, but no,
As well as
with
every other fucking
yeah, it was
category.
just yeah. So this is what I boiled it down to. God of War. We'll come back to that one. Last of Us Part Two. Like you
God,
said,
we'll come back to that later.
so thoughtful, adrenaline fueled, thoughtful combat, right? For Last of Us Part Two, it nails animation. It nails um just the fluidity of the combat, everything, and it's just so good. Looting can be a little tedious at times. That's where my con is. Like the looting is just there's so much to loot. Just you're looting all the time. And I think that's where I kind of go. And I say negative things here, but they're not negative because this game is a masterpiece. Whereas Last of Us, the gameplay loop is shorter. It's a smaller loop, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Stick with me here. Whereas you have stealth, action, and environment exploration. Um, as far as environment exploration, it basically boils down to loot every room that you see, go blah blah blah. Combat is amazing. One of the most fluid and like natural feeling combats and visceral. Uh, but that's it, right? Where God of War, if I'm taking all of the subcategories of gameplay and putting it into this final verdict here, God of War has a Metroidvania style exploration where you see something cool, you know it, you have to memorize it. I'll come back to it later because obviously I can get to it later when I have
Oh
my power up.
yeah.
You have RPG progression system where your armor and it shows on the character, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. The evolution of the characters through the combat where you build up your skill tree, and just like I don't know, I guess the gameplay loop of God of War is more interesting. Is I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but there's more going for it. There's more going on in God of War overall grand scheme of things as far as environment exploration, and the combat is freaking phenomenal. It's so much fun. Of course, there are some animations that repeat over your executions of ripping over a jogger, ripping open a jogger. That okay, it gets kind of there it is, but it's just it's just the action set piece,
Yeah,
the
how many
gigantic,
people did you
the
choke out as
puzzle.
Abby?
Right. Well, there was
Stabbed
many
in the
different ways
head.
to choke out somebody. But yeah, no, if you're doing the stealth, the definitely the animations start to repeat. But like, um, in God of War, there's puzzles. Like as far as environmental exploration goes, there's puzzles, there's side quests. There's a semi-open world experience to go with. Last of Us kind of has that too, but just for one day, one little segment. Um, but yeah, and I just really think that God of War has more packed into it than The Last of Us Part Two. Which, granted, as I'm saying this, just to reiterate, Last of Us Part Two is one of the most phenomenal feeling games I've ever played. Like it is just fluid and natural and visceral and everything. But I can say good about that game. But whereas God of War, yeah, sometimes it feels a little arcadey, and the combat does get a little bit repetitive, but there's so much under your belt that you can do. You can upgrade your abilities, you can do all this other stuff. Um, but the Metroidvania thing, I think, is where I keep coming back to. So it basically is kind of a Metroidvania kind of game, and I think for that reason, I give the gameplay to God of War here. Is that God of War has so much into it, packed into the game, whereas Last of Us is a
Pretty
very
linear.
linear, straightforward gameplay experience. So I'm going God of War.
Okay, okay.
I don't know if it took me about 5 minutes to finally get to that point where what I was trying to say there is
Uh,
so a
about
lot going
four
for God of
minutes
War.
and 38 seconds.
Yeah, because this is very back and forth, obviously, between God of War and Last of Us. They're both phenomenal games, but if I have to give the winner in gameplay category, I'm going God of War. So we move over
Oh,
to this should be a quick one. I know Robert had something he wants to say about it, so let's go over to sound here. Earlier in the podcast, you said there was
Oh, yeah,
complaints.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, okay. First of all, I'm gonna say Last of Us wins on sound. Uh, I think the gun sound porn was enough for that. But
the cl-
when it comes to and this comes back to kind of story and maybe even gameplay, with that whole realism, the fact that Last of Us takes place in a world that we're very much familiar with. It's much more easier for us to recognize those sounds and the environments, especially like when you first come across the scars or the
oh
seraphites and
yes.
you hear the whistling. You're like, oh shit.
Mhm.
It's like, okay,
The
there's
whistling
people
is
here.
so
Where are they? Where
terrifying.
are they? They're like, where are they though? You can't see them. Um,
Mhm.
like so. Things like that. Even the water, the clickers, the stalkers. Knowing they're there because you can hear them breathing. You can hear the little twitches and stuff, the
Mhm.
motions that they hide. Uh, stuff like that kind of crawls on your skin while you're playing it, and even the gunshot sounds like God. Every time I fired the damn rifle, I was like, God, does that have to be that loud? I was like, because obviously everyone's gonna hear you, but it's like you use it and you're like, damn, that's yeah. It's like, well, it is a rifle. I guess it should be loud. So yeah, all those elements, that stuff that we're all familiar with, especially guns. We see it in other video games, so we can kind of use that as a comparison if you want. But I just
Man,
thought the
dude.
sound of The Last of Us was like I said, amazing.
Mhm.
And this goes to God of War. It's like yeah, fighting on back of the dragon was cool. That the dragon sounded amazing. I don't know what dragons are supposed to sound like. The dragon sounded amazing though. You know,
I don't know
I
what
don't
fighting a
know what
mythological
it's supposed
beast
to
should
sound
sound.
like when exactly. I don't know what fighting a mythological beast should sound like, but I guess that's what it does sound like.
See,
So if I was gonna go with sound, I mean, this goes probably more with sorry, yeah, the
no, no,
voicing.
no.
Um, the voice actor for Kratos, but I mean the voice actor for Ellie, for Joel, for Abby. I mean all those characters, voice actors. You could give an Oscar to fucking I think the chick who played Abby
Laura
or
Bailey.
Ellie. I mean it was
Or
just
you could just send
they
her
were
death threats
so
like people
good.
did.
And
Yeah, or you consider hate mail, right? Yes, yes.
It's like, come on, people,
oh
really?
yeah, oh yeah, the girl, yeah.
Yeah.
I pick yeah, because it was some character in a game. Who's the bad guy? I played it, and I don't even remember the bad guy. Red Dead 2. Who's the bad dude?
Um,
He like basically
which,
betrays
uh,
Arthur. Casey is it?
God
Is it?
dang it.
I can't.
Um,
I
Jeez,
don't
what the heck
know,
is
He
his
but
didn't,
it
name?
was a
he didn't know what he was doing.
yeah. He must not been that good. Must not have been that good. But
He
it
never
was
What?
quit
like
playing.
it had his
It's been a
name.
couple
It
years
had
since I
his
played it. I don't remember everything.
No, I was talking
It
about
had his name,
the
and it
guy.
was just like when you're the internet's most hated video game villain, and then Abby walks up and is like, "Hold my golf club." I was like, "I got this." So yeah, dude. I mean, just the performance that all those actors that they all put on. It
Man, that's
was
a good
God,
point.
it felt good, you
Dutch,
know? You kill that
Dutch.
little girl while she's playing on her PlayStation Vita, you know? Well, no,
Oh yeah.
Dutch is
Oh,
the
that
head of
was.
the gang. He's not the bad guy.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
you're
But that's
thinking
Dutch is
of
the villain though.
God,
Is it Mitch
He's
or
the guy
Micah?
that convinces Dutch to
Micah,
like betray you and everything.
Micah.
Mike.
Micah, that's it, Micah. Yeah. Yeah, everyone
I've
was like,
got a
Micah.
plan, Arthur Morgan. Have faith, brother.
Yo,
Yeah.
listen,
So
that's a
like
good point with the
so
voice acting.
and
That's a good point.
I loved watching the motion capture when they're doing Kratos, you know? Like I love like
Oh,
watching the scenes where it's the actor and the actual kid. Like that was like that's amazing. But
So which
once
one are you
again,
going with?
I got to go
yeah.
I got to go with the full range of emotions that the characters in The Last of Us portray. You get to see almost everything from each character. Did Kratos smile ever?
In photo mode.
Did he? In photo mode, he does. But yeah, it's like so if I'm gonna go sound, you know, I'm once again I think I just gotta go Last of Us too because
Yeah.
the whole real world environment it felt like a real world. And Midgar felt like a real world. It did. It felt like
Mm.
a real world. But once again, you know, what's a real you know, if we're comparing a real world to a fantasy world,
That's a really good point, Rob, with the voice acting.
ah, y-
I was like, because for me, I have different reasons why. Now everything is changing.
I mi-
Stephen,
yeah, yeah. Well, I miss sound too. I was gonna go hardcore sound for The Last of Us, but then I thought about the voice acting, and I was like, "That's right, man. That motion capture was good."
so much.
But if I'm looking at all the characters from The Last of Us, man, it's just
Yeah.
it's The
Stephen,
Last of Us
Stephen,
Part
Stephen,
Two.
what's up, man? What's your sound verdict here?
I think sound wise, I think what God of War did, basically they're creating sounds.
Yeah.
Where Last of Us 2, they're taking sounds that pretty much already exist with
Mm-hmm.
gunshots, babbling
That's what
brooks.
you're trying to say. It's
Besides the
easier.
clickers.
No.
Besides the
It's
clicker,
I
that's
mean,
actually yeah.
there's a few things in there that they had to
Yeah.
create, but God of War literally had to create all the sounds that they got.
Right.
I mean, of course they got
Mhm.
rivers and wind and all that stuff, but like creatures, like they had
Mm-hmm.
to make all the creature sounds, and there's a huge variety of creatures in this game, from big gigantic monsters to just whatever. Um, so I think for me, like Last of Us sounds phenomenal, of course, but the fact that God of War they're creating a lot of these sounds based on what? Like looking at something and that's what it should sound like. Um, so I think that, and then just the Kratos voice is freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um,
Christopher Judge.
like
Yeah.
dude's awesome. Like,
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
I'm going
Christopher
with God of
Judge.
War on
That's
this
it.
one.
Yeah.
You going God of War?
God of War.
All right. So for me, I'm taking into consideration. I liked how Rob kind of focused more on the voice acting, and then Steven focused more on like the sound effects and all that other stuff. Um,
That's what I
man,
wanted to do. I wanted
yeah.
to go with the sound effects, which I
Hmm.
thought I thought I still got
You
out of there.
did.
I
You
mean
did
the gun
touch on
porn, the gun
yeah,
porn sound. I mean,
you touched on it with the click clack click click clack click 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 cow
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So,
cow.
but yeah. You can't
um,
can't drop that sound now.
now
Can't get rid of them voices now.
the sound, as far as Last of Us, like Steven said, it nails the sounds of an environment, the nature, the guns, the everything like that. But I think where it really shines in sound department is obviously the voice acting. Nailed it. You can give them Oscars, like Robert said. Give Laura Bailey an Oscar. Made me fall in love with a character I loathed.
Half the
Um
people who get Oscars suck anyways. So I think
just give one to Laura Bailey, man. That was
give them
yeah,
to a
and actually
video
Josh
game
as
character.
Ellie portrays that emotion, that fire that she had. And even Troy Baker as Joel, like he didn't get much of a big role, like that big of a role in this game, but the parts that he was in the game, my God, the
Yeah,
the the
Dude, I
zoo.
was glued
Oh
every
my
time
museum,
God,
Joel
the
was on there.
museum. Yeah,
yeah, dude, the museum where yeah
I was
that
like, where
God.
did he find a cassette? of a rocket launch.
Come on, man. That's all right. We're good with story. We know that's why Last of Us is good on story. Um, but man, like, he did such a good. They both everybody on screen did such a good job. I even like Jesse. I like the side characters. Um, I didn't really like Mel. I think it was name Mel. I can't remember anymore.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't like her either. Yeah.
It's probably just the way she was written, but I don't know if it has anything to do with the voice acting. But I didn't really like her too much. But the same can kind of be said for God of War. Let's go. I mean, like Christopher Judge brought emotion and character to Kratos, who was a very one-dimensional character, and that goes against
He
nothing on the
brought a lot of
original.
bass.
Yeah, the original voice
He
actor.
brought a lot of bass.
Yeah, I still love the
Well, I
original
mean,
voice
it's all
actor.
about the bass, no trouble, anyways. So
No treble, baby. But on that point, it's what's not said that gives character to Kratos. Like the moment where Atreus shot that deer or had to just to finally like stab the deer, put it out of its misery thing, and like Kratos helped. And then afterwards he kind of like looks at him and could tell that he needs a hug or something, and Kratos just kind of reaches his hand out and then he puts his hand back and then grabs the knife out. Like it's what's not
Don't be a
said for
bitch.
Kratos. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of like it's and then his struggle with um obviously
So
he
that's more
needs to
gameplay.
die.
That's not sound, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that okay, you're good. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
shut
But
up,
yeah,
Robert.
Kratos
He had a
That's more
moment.
game.
but yeah, it is very true. That's
Silence
more
is
gameplay and
sound.
story. It's more story. But as God of War goes, that soundtrack, the throat singing or whatever, the or so whatever that is, like that man, it sounds so good when you get into those action set pieces or whenever like that theme song kicks in. So good, man. I love the soundtrack of God of War. It just feels epic all the time. So that the sound of the Leviathan axe coming, bringing that Leviathan axe back. Everything was there, like Steven said. You're bringing sound effects to things that don't really necessarily exist. Um, I'm giving the edge to God of War here, just because. I mean, it just feels more atmospheric and more epic, and just it's
Because they're
got that
crazy.
orchestra. It's got. I mean, Last of Us to obviously it does what it's supposed to do with that little steel guitar and stuff like that. Ding 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 ding. Whatever. It's what it's supposed to do. It gives it this very unique sound, and that's good. Um, but as far as like the sound, man, I'm going God of War.
They're
Voice acting was
creating
great.
sound out of
That's
something that
cool.
myth.
Yeah, Brock was
Like they're
great.
creating sounds for a world that doesn't exist.
But then, like I said, like I said, 10 out of 10 for both games. I mean, let's go. Let's be honest here,
10
right?
out
I
of
mean,
10.
10 out of 10 for both games on sound. Like uh, it's a tough
All
one.
right,
I
what
thought
what
that's
is our
uh,
next metric that we're going
The
for?
final category here is
graphics.
graphics.
Oh,
Ooh,
graphics.
For me, this is I can start. For me,
this one's. I think this one's a bit easier.
yeah. For me, it's easy. I mean, I'm playing God of War now, and it does look amazing. It has some really cool in art direction. So as far as like, I can't even say
I
as
like
far
the
as art
bright
direction
colors.
goes. I guess I could give art direction to God of War just because that I can't. I'm sorry. I don't even know where to go with it. I just know that Last of Us looks better. It
Oh,
is
Yeah,
definitely going to win this category for me.
I think
Yeah.
with
that's
graphics,
that's sunset with
Last
the
of Us
baby.
2 is. I don't know how the hell Naughty Dog does it, but they
Mhm.
managed to push the most out of a system, and they have the benefit of coming out later than God of War. I think
True.
if God of War
Right.
came out in this time frame, it probably look substantially better. Not substantially better, but a bit better than what it does. Um, but I think Last of Us 2, like hands down, graphics, it's just better.
And it's not just that it looks prettier. Like I mean, it does look more real and more gritty and more like it just. You would have told me that was a PS5 game, I would have believed you. Like it just
It's
looks.
definitely. It
Yeah,
looks like a first gen PS
when
next gen
yeah,
game.
yeah. but
when
also because it feels
like
alive.
when when Abby shoots Joel the first time in his knee, I was like, okay, that's bad. But it wasn't until they grab him and move him that you see his leg. And that's like kind of like what I said,
It
like that guy's head, like you just took like a moon crest, like
It looked
he
like
had like a circle, like just, and that's what I was like, yeah, he's not gonna make it. I was like,
looked like a
he's
butterfly
worthless now,
shrimp.
and like that was like just, oh my, yeah, ooh, it looks so bad,
dude,
and
yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing is like I mean God of War did the exact same thing. I mean the cutscenes and the gameplay were seamless because they were the exact same thing.
I
You
love the
know, the
one
camera never left Kratos.
shot. Mhm.
Yes, yes. Um, but I mean, there was, and that was a cool thing too. However, it's like when you were watching a cutscene from The Last of Us, you knew when you were about to pick up the controller. Like you could feel when the camera got in that right kind of just like that, you know, where it's supposed to be, and you're like, wait a minute, okay, this is it. So even if there was no indication that you had to like move the characters and stuff, but yeah, I mean, just visuals. I thought the game could have ended when I was sitting on that tractor with little potato, just looking at the
Oh,
sunset, bro.
the story. Okay, the story
I was like,
wins. All right, man, it's easy.
I'm not saying the story.
I
I'm saying the
know.
graphics, like just
You just remind
visually sitting there, like visually, because I was like literally sitting, and I'm just like slowly moving the thumbstick like left to right, just
Yeah,
like
man.
this
That's a
is
photo.
it, like this is it, right? Like,
Photo up. I took a photo.
yeah, I was like, what else? What else do we do now? Like, I've done everything, so yeah,
So
I do. I don't.
that
As
kind of
much as I love God of War, I don't think you're gonna get me to say anything. Last of
different.
Us wins. Visuals.
Yeah. And like I think the key thing that we're saying here is that it's not obviously it came out later. So the graphics look prettier and it has more time to do that. But as far as like the environment, look around. Just go into a house and see how alive it feels. Like there's stuff there's calendars with people's anniversary dates. There's so much life that was there in that environment. Like, and it tells us every environment tells a story, and it just like you go in there
Yeah.
and that's what you get out of Last of Us. Everything just looks so, or I guess lived in. Um, but obviously, to God of War's credit, it's going for this very mythological and beautiful Alheim and Helheim and all the different these Norse mythology realms and stuff like that.
All the
And
Heims.
all the Heims nailed.
All the Hymens.
Whoa, whoa! This is a family show. Jeez.
so so yeah, I gotta go. I mean, not God of War. We gotta go. Last of Us Part
Good.
Two. Um, yeah, but it's not to God of War's discredit at all. I mean, it's still a phenomenal looking game. But Last of Us Part Two wins that hands down for me. It was an easy one to go into. This
Yeah,
final
same.
this final one is this is where it is. This is where we have come to, guys. Which
That's where
game?
the rubber meets the road.
This is it, man. Which game is better? Now, before we go into it, I will say that if I'm keeping track, it's a clean sweep for Rob. Last of Us wins all categories. Last of Us won all categories. For Steven, I can't remember. I
I
think you
think
said
I'm.
story God of
I think
War,
you 50-50.
I think so. Well, I
story
went
God,
story God
Gameplay,
of War, gameplay. I went
Last of Us,
Last of
gameplay,
Us.
Last of Us.
What was the next
In
one?
sound,
sound.
Sound. I went
what,
God of War, and
Yep,
yeah, I'm 50-50.
and
So
and then
graphics.
visuals, he went Last of Us. Yep.
Yep. So for me, I went story Last of Us. Uh, what was it? Graphics? No, story Last of Us.
No,
Game
gameplay,
God of War.
God of War.
Or graphics Last of Us. So I'm 50-50 as well. I think after having this conversation with you guys, I have gotten nowhere. Um
and I think, dude, I really think there's no clear. And when it comes to these two games, I don't think they're like there's a clear-cut winner. I
Mhm.
really don't. I don't
It's
like
personal
to me,
preference.
right.
It's
That's how majority of these things are. They're personal preference. Just like which phone's better, it's a personal preference. Like a lot of this stuff is personal preference, especially when it comes to consoles.
Here's
Um,
some
I don't know. For
here's
me, I'm kind of
might
I don't
help.
have
I might have a question for you guys to think about that might help. Um, when somebody, let's say Andrew, is going out and buying a PS4. He's
oh
been an Xbox
god.
guy. He's been an
oh god.
he buys a PS4. He only has enough money to buy one game. What game do you recommend?
Can I ask a question? Can I
Yeah,
ask a question then? Did he play the first Last of Us?
he did. Ah, I got it. All right. Well,
Dang.
Did he?
that's
Because if he didn't, then I'm just gonna say then grab God of War.
yeah, that's true. We can just assume that he did, but I don't know because then it's preference again.
Well,
We
let's
could
just
just
say so
Well, then
let's
help.
do this. So, say Last of Us is the free PlayStation Plus game of the month. So, he's going to have it.
He's gonna.
I
Oh
mean,
God.
All right.
for
So
me
then,
though,
I mean, yes. Then I would say yeah. As much as I do think I know he would love playing God of War. I
I'm
know
going to have
he'd
to
get
go
a
with
kick
God
out
of
of God of
War.
War.
I
But
actually,
I would personally suggest Last of Us, even though I know personally he would probably prefer God of War.
mhm.
But I'm also saying that because I know how Andrew loves to prove people wrong. So I'm
I know,
saying
right
that
now we're
to
going
hope
with
that
personal.
he would play Last of Us and he'd be like, you know what, Rob, I did like Last of Us better. You know what, I did like it.
Yeah.
You know. So
See, like, okay, so
I'm gonna
here's.
try to trick him.
I think, for the record, I think Andrew would enjoy The Last of Us Part Two more because he loves like Splinter Cell and stuff like that. But that's preference again.
Hmm.
Um, so listen, if I was to recommend a game for for anybody, for a mass audience, and I'm just like, okay, you have a PS4. Here's the game that I think you absolutely need to play, and you will absolutely love every minute of it. Whereas, and this is where I kind of struggle with because Last of Us is a game that everybody absolutely needs to play, and have an open mind and enjoy that game for what it is. The story is amazing, the gameplay, everything is amazing. It's a masterpiece in every aspect of game design. Uh, but with God of War, I think God of War has this the gameplay is so fun, it's addictive. I put so many hours into that game. And then like even after you beat the game, I still want to go back and I did the new game plus. I fought all the Valkyries. I went through all the little side quests that they had. I put so many hours into that game. If The Last of Us would have offered something like that, I would have done it, but I don't know how they would have incorporated something like that. But yeah, it's the I guess if you boil it down to
Which
story,
one's more accessible?
well, I would say that's a tough one because of the accessibility options of Last of Us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I know where you're getting at.
Yeah.
Um, so
What?
the accessibility, like meaning like anybody can pick up and play this game, I think,
Yeah.
and would have blast playing it. Whereas
Oh,
Last of Us, you might not have a blast. Maybe stealth is not your thing. I don't know. Who knows?
well,
Um,
if
maybe you don't like that violence.
if you haven't played the first one, you're not gonna care about the first major stroke in the story.
I
And if
almost
you
feel like
don't
you
care
could
about that first stroke, if
Say,
really if you don't think if
hold
you
on.
never played the first
Hold
one, you
on.
think you would
I actually fully recommend this game, Last of Us Part Two, for anybody who has not played the first one. I think that if you played Last of Us Part Two, you may, in fact,
Get
have
a
a
better
better
experience.
time because you're not so attached to Joel. But the part two does a great job of explaining this attachment, and every time you see that flashback, you're going to get the same gut feeling or that emotional reaction that you lost Joel. And you just know that because of the game explaining that this is a father figure to you. uh Maybe the part where he lied to Ellie might not be that big of an impact. Um, but I think people would have a great time playing this game if you've never played Last of Us Part One. I think you could still get
Oh
the idea.
yeah, I, I, s- I think I think you'd have a great time. I just don't the the whole reason of like Abby being introduced
Mhm.
and doing what she did is for that reason because you want to instantly hate her. Now, if you're playing the game for your first time and you don't have all that backstory, you're gonna not like
Yeah,
her. You
the
might hate
emotional
her because you're thinking that looks very inhuman to do to somebody. Because
reaction.
in your mind, you don't even know the shit that Joel and Ellie have already done to people. So yeah, in your mind, you may go that well, that she looks like kind of a bad person. But like I said, if you go into it and you know who Joel was, that's why it's like it's almost funny when he's like, "Who are you?" and she says, "Guess," because he's literally like, "You could fucking be anybody for
Yeah,
like how many
Joel
people
had it
I've killed.
coming. Yeah,
Do you
he.
have any idea?" So like yeah, it's almost kind of funny when she says that, and
Mm,
if you never played the game, it's like how would she says guess. You would think if this is
mm.
your first time, it's like, wow, he should probably know who she is, you know?
True. That's a good
You
point.
would think. You would think they
Obviously,
would know
yeah,
each other.
that's a good point. Obviously, you should play the first
But
one. It is one of the greatest games of
so
it.
but that's why, like it's but I do think in time it's going to go on and surpass the first one. Is it a standalone game by itself? Sure, but you get
Yeah,
more with the full package.
absolutely. That's a good point.
Granted, you don't have to play God of War 1 through 3 to enjoy God
True,
of War
but you get
for
more
the
out of
PlayStation.
you
For
would get
God of
more out
War.
of it.
However,
We can't. Okay,
it's
yeah,
amazing because we know who Kratos was and we get to
yeah,
see that. So
exactly.
it's like that. So maybe that's why these two games are so fucking great is because of the history that has been put into the characters and we
Good
just
point.
care so much.
That's a fair point. Yeah. So I mean, with that said, I don't know if we can really determine this winner based off of the history of the games. That's
I
a good.
know it's like I'm almost back on the
Yeah.
fence. I'm almost back on the fence now. Damn it! I almost talked myself out of it.
I know, man. Um.
Ah,
All right, guys. It's decision time. It's decision time. I was gonna say Robert start first since you. I'm gonna go ahead and
yeah,
say
no,
Robert.
I'm.
Go ahead, start first, man. It's a clean sweep on all categories.
It is, because I
Flip
still
flops at
think
this
that
point, it's huge.
that scene, bro, that guitar scene, it just
Mm, so many scenes.
All the scenes.
it was just such an impact to me to realize, because I remember when she bit her fingers in the fight, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's dirty! Oh, get the." But I still didn't want her to kill it. Like I'm literally like it's saying press square, and I'm like, no, I don't want to. I don't like. Isn't this enough? Like I literally like as I'm playing as this character, I'm like, haven't we done this enough? So. But yeah, but just yeah, man, that moment when it finally it's like it comes full circle, and even I had to think about it. I was like, wow, her story for revenge cost her everything, and not just like the people in her lives, but something that usually something usually you can't take something a skill from someone, like
Mhm.
knowledge, you can't steal knowledge from someone. So she knows how to play the guitar, but she can't do it anymore. I just felt like that was such a god. It was like like a kidney shot, man. Just man, that sucked. And maybe it's because we play a little bit of drums and guitar and stuff, so
Yeah,
we get a little bit more
that was
feel out of
dramatic.
that. I know Steven loves music too. Shit, we all love fucking music.
Yeah.
Um, so it's such a crazy thing to have a skill like that taken from you, and
Isn't
and
that?
taken in such a hard and brutal and she has no one to blame but herself.
Yep. Isn't that such
So
another like uh just
so the
a positive for Last of Us where they even music is a theme for the game, whereas in the midst of like just chaos, music can still be this source of
Calming. Yeah.
Did
um
did both of you guys get the scene where she plays "Take on Me," the
oh yeah,
cover by Wham?
Yeah.
yes, so
You
good.
both got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, I was like, so I've already like played like her rendition a couple times just because it's so it's I've never heard the song that way. Like I'd never heard it sung in that tempo, you know. So I was like to hear it and just like, oh my god, it was just, and she
That's
can never,
it's a
never
notch
do
for
that again.
sound department there I didn't think of, but
She can never, yeah, she can never do that again. That moment of her playing the guitar in front of
that
Dina,
was your
and
source
Dina could
of
have the baby.
like I said, man, it was a source of serenity and her happiness and like what Joel like it was what Joel passed on to her and she lost. God, it's just so deep. Um,
And that's why for her to set it down and to walk away was
no,
just,
man,
it it meant so much.
freaking Last of Us,
Understand why they left all the windows open in the house.
freaking Last of Us,
Yeah,
man.
right. Yeah,
Why would you
I
leave all the
thought
windows
something was gonna
open?
happen. I thought so. I
Well,
was like, this is just asking for some trouble.
I just recently learned if you leave your windows open in a tornado, it doesn't blow the roof off. So I don't know. Anyways, we're moving on to Steven now. Steven, your pick for
It
better
was
the best game.
50-50.
50-50.
50-50 on this one, but I
50,
think
50.
overall for me, I had more fun with God of War. And then I do like the father son aspect of it. I thought that was a really cool touch that they added.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that one
Wow,
was
you're
a
not
bit
like a
better for
good
me.
father or anything, so I don't
No,
know.
I ignore my kids all the time. Um,
Boy.
I don't even know their names. I
Right.
think it's boy one and boy two, right?
Other boy,
Child.
other boy.
Other boy.
Littler kid. Uh, but I'm going with God of War on this one. I mean, I- it was, I don't know, it was a little bit of a debate for me, but uh, I just don't see Last of Us as the same masterpiece as you guys. I guess. Believe me, it's a
Well,
fantastic game. I just don't think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And
I
I
wish
also
Peter
like
was
to
here
say,
to shoot him down
I
too.
Peter said he liked Ghost of Tsushima better than Last of Us 2.
Do
And
you
that's
like
why
Ghost of Tsushima better than Last of Us 2?
I mean, I'm still playing it, but I don't think so.
Okay,
I
because
mean, it's a
okay, because my argument was going to be like, oh my God, Steven likes a game that's almost like Assassin's Creed in Japan. It's
oh,
almost like he has an Assassin's Creed tattoo somewhere on his body. Like that
on
was
my
my,
junk.
like if he'd have came out swinging with that, yeah, if he'd have came out swinging with that, I'd have been like, oh my God, of course. But
but
no,
yeah,
it does, dude. It looks good. The GameStop I'm at, they only got pre-orders in, and so all those were sold out. And even one of the guys who works there gave his copy to a customer
all
so
right,
he
Rob.
could play it.
That's
So
Ghost of Tsushima. It's not even part of the conversation, so
I just wanted to
I
add
know
it
we'll
in.
get to that.
I just wanted to add it in because Peter said it,
yeah,
and
Peter would have
he's not here.
gone with God of War. I'm sure. I think he would his answer would have been a God of War. But um, so Steven, you say God of War.
Yeah, I'm going God of
All right.
War.
Try to reel this back
What
in.
does Wes say? What does Wes say over there?
Well,
It's been very quiet.
I have it as Wheezy right now on my wife's account. But
Yeah,
listen,
Wheeze has been very quiet.
all right. So check this out, guys. As you're talking, and as we've been talking for the past, I don't know, hour and a half, I don't know. Um, I still, I'm still so conflicted between these two games. It's like Steven said, they're two very dynamically different games. In the essence of what they're doing. It's still a
I'm in
third person
team
action.
third person.
Yeah, it's still a third person action adventure game, story driven. But
Yeah,
it's still a
yeah.
PlayStation game. Uh, but they're very different. It's- Last of Us Part Two is such a masterpiece in terms of game design, like every aspect of game design. Um, it's just so freaking good. Um, where God of War is just so freaking fun. And it's is it a masterpiece? God of War? I'd still call it a masterpiece. There's more than one masterpiece in art. There's room for more than one masterpiece in art. Um so yeah,
Masterpiece.
they're both masterpieces. I gave gameplay the God of War because of the sheer amount of content that's packed into it, the things that you can do, the Metroidvania style. But the story is just something that transcends video games. It's a great story in all media, not just video games. Whereas God of War definitely has a great story. Um, this is a tough one, guys. This is a tough one. I'm going to go with, because before I started the podcast, I thought I had my mind made up. I thought I was going to go with God of War. I thought I was going to go God of
Oh,
War.
really?
I thought I was going to be a shocker here. And now, the more like before I can give my final verdict, my mind is like, "Don't you're not ready. You're not positive on this. You're not positive on this."
Are we gonna need to have a second podcast with Danny's
Say it!
answer?
We get you say
Yes.
it!
So stay tuned
Yes.
for part 2 of this
Find
conversation.
out next week.
To be
Oh,
Will
man.
Danny pick The Last of Us Part 2? Will Robert come back? Will Steven come out of the closet? Tune in next week.
Tune in next week. Oh man.
Damn it.
Man, this is tough, dude. This is harder than I thought, just because like I don't like giving my stamp of approval on something, or like my final verdict on something until I've given it a lot of thought. And I do that with my
You know,
game awards every year.
this is
With
going to affect
everything.
I do that with everything, man.
how you
Yes.
answer this question is going to
Uh,
affect how Lucy grows up to become a person. So,
check it, dude. That's how I'm looking at this right now. You
yeah,
understand?
exactly.
My
That's how you.
children,
Are
my
gonna look
children's
back on this
children will
moment.
be affected by this when they go back and they
My
check out this.
children's children.
My children's children will be affected by this. That's how important this is. All like 20 views on this video. And everybody who's made it to the end.
My
Yeah,
children, damn it.
my children's children. All right, guys, I'm going with The Last of Us Part 2 because as much as I was thinking God of War going into it, just the polish, uh the expertise, the master class in every aspect of game design, man. I keep saying that is my tag for the game. Put that on the box. A masterpiece in every aspect of game design, from animation, direction to game design, the everything, story, the performance of the actors. I'm going with Last of Us Part 2, guys. That's my answer. So The Last of Us
All
Part
right.
2 is the best PS4
And that's it.
exclusive. And that edges out Ghost of
Ever.
Tsushima as well. Sorry, Peter. The Last of Us Part 2
Sorry.
is Game Night's best PS4 exclusive. All right, guys. That was fun conversation. Thanks for adding to the man. It was fun to talk about. Might do this with more. I have a better or not a better one, but I have a really fun one. Best PS2 game and PS2 versus PS4. I kind of want to do that.
Ooh.
Best PlayStation 2 game?
Yep. Plus PlayStation. So PlayStation 2 versus PS4. What was the best PlayStation console? I mean,
That's not fair.
you can even throw in PS1, but I don't consider PS3.
I love how you just skipped 3. Yeah, I love how you
I
skipped
don't
3.
think three made a good comeback at the end, but
3 was garbage.
Yeah, too late.
Yeah.
Too little, too late.
yeah,
I mean, The
great
Last of
comeback.
Us. Yeah, it did. It did make a comeback at the end with The Last of
Uncharted,
Us.
it had a lot of good gems on there. It was a little too late. So
Yeah.
PlayStation and all of those games. That's the weird thing when you do that, the PlayStation thing,
You know,
because a lot of games can be played on
N64
PS4.
only had like the N64 only had like 270 games for it.
Dude,
Isn't that like
this is
ridiculous?
where this is kind of where I want to go with the podcast. I love covering the news and stuff, but I like doing these conversations about like best first gen, not first gen, because that was way before us, but we could do like starting from the third gen, like best third gen consoles. NES or I mean, you start from there.
Sega
Go from
Genesis,
the
baby.
Genesis versus the SNES. We could do that. We could
Oh
do
man.
and keep going through the generations and determine what was the best console of all time. But anyways, that's future game night. Love having these conversations. Thank you guys, and I love to do more of these in-depth conversations about games. So I think that's where I want to go with game night. We'll stick with throwing news in there, but I love these in-depth conversations. So, The
Oh
Last of Us
yeah.
Part Two,
Oh yeah.
best PS4 exclusive. Thank you guys for joining us,
Yep.
and this has
Steven
been
agrees.
Game Night. Steven agrees with Last of Us Part 2. Thank you very much, Steven, for your
Bye.
time.
Bye. Thank you very
It's
much,
like
Steven.
everything else I said just doesn't matter.
It doesn't. It doesn't. Like, oh
And
man.
it's the best game there is, Steven. Thank you very much. Get him out. Get him out.
Okay, bye.
Got a whole bag of Zibbit.
Oh man.
All right, guys. You have a good night. Thanks for watching Game Night.
Yeah, man. Whew. You guys take care. I'll see y'all later.